Hey guys, Edgar here with OmniPrint International. I'm here with Brian.
Hi guys.
Today what we're going to be going is the top 10 things you want to look out for when purchasing embroidery machines, embroidery equipment. Brian here, he's our guru, he's our specialist, and I'm going to be the devil's advocate. With my background in embroidery and production, I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to go back and forth a little bit on what to look out for when buying a piece of equipment. When I bought my first piece of equipment, some of the things that I didn't know I needed to look out for. So that way, those of you guys that are looking to get a piece of equipment, or maybe you're looking to add your second unit, some of the things to look out for. So the first one I have is machine type and capability. You want to determine whether you need a commercial grade machine for large volumes or a smaller machine for custom detailed work. If you're starting off, are you gonna want something that's more industrial, or are you gonna want something that's more on the entry level? What would you categorize this specific unit right here? Is this more commercial, entry level? If I touch it, is it gonna break, or what? Tell me a little bit about this specific one.
It's called our iStitch Pro. It is our 1501C. It would be a good entry level embroidery machine starting off. Eventually when you want to expand and you build your business, then you definitely want to go with, say, a 2-head, 3-head, depending on the space that you have, the availability. But it's a great entry level, definitely, for sure.
For those of you guys that are new, 1-head means it just has one specific area where it's going to be embroidering versus several stations. So you can just call it one station. But for some of you guys that are more of the seasoned vets, for the most part, your 1-head is more like when you're doing samples before they go into larger volumes, or if you're just starting off where you're doing 6 hats, 12 hats, something like this, you can just pop it on, start sewing off. When I tested my first machine before I brought it in-house, I was testing out, it was like a smaller unit that was like a desktop. It almost seems like the ones that you would go to a regular store and buy. This one, I would say it's like Brian was saying, it's entry level. It's definitely durable. It's made for wear and tear for production, but it is, at the end of the day, it's 1-head. So you got to keep in mind, what the volume you're gonna be doing. But I specifically like this one because I've been around different machines, and I would not to contradict you, I would think this is more of a commercial grade, right, versus entry level.
Yeah, because it does have that quality, and it does have features on this machine that even some of the most common embroidery machines don't have. And that's definitely beneficial to the consumer that's going to be using this machine every day, day in and day out.
The next thing is embroidery area and size. You want to ensure the machine's embroidery area suits the size of the designs you plan to create. Larger areas offer more versatility for different project sizes. Super important. Like for this specific unit, how big is the embroidery area?
The sewing size for this particular machine is going to be 14 by 8. It'd be able to fit something like this right here, this hoop. This is the largest hoop that we do have for this embroidery machine.
That's definitely a good size, 14 by 8.
Yeah, and it's perfect if you wanted to do like the back of jackets for like mechanics, like biker clubs that have the vests. Like this would be a great size to do those kind of projects on.
And it's definitely having that large, size. It allows you to do something large, super advanced, super detailed, that it's kind of like you'll have it in your showroom, so you can just see like, hey, this is the max, capabilities that we have, the quality that we have, and then that way, for dealing with, your customers are able to see like, okay, that's really good detail, really good quality, and then makes it a lot easier. We're like, okay, if they can do something that complex, my logo is gonna be, easy to do. Number 3, number of needles. More needles allow for quicker color changes and can increase efficiency, especially for complex designs with multiple colors. Definitely number of needles is, important. How many does this one have?
This one has 15 needles.
15. And for some of you guys that, just as far as like what does he mean by number of needles, is how many different color threads can you have on there? And 15 it's gonna give you a good amount, when it comes to, the different branding that you're gonna be doing. Like ours has 8. A lot of the machines out there that starting off, they might not have as many as 15. And then it makes it super easy, because you might say like, hey, well, a lot of the times I'm only doing like maybe 5 to 10 different colors. The cool thing is you can have your 15 top selling colors. So when it comes to loading graphics, it makes it a lot easier selecting the colors, right? Versus having to constantly be changing out the threads.
Exactly your point. Like you just mentioned, it's time saving. You don't have to keep on switching in and out of threads. And it's just really convenient for anybody starting off to get with a 15 needle, opposed to, I've seen needles that go from 6 to 10, and you're constantly having to switch out the thread and reprogramming your machine to read which colors should go to which threads. So those 15 needles definitely are beneficial too.
It just comes down to efficiency and saving that time, and time equals money. And the last thing that you want to be doing, especially if you're starting off by yourself, you don't want to be spending a lot of time having to, swap out the threads, the threads, and then having to, go through the whole process of setting it up. So definitely having 15 makes it a lot more easy. Number 4, ease of use. Super important. When I was talking about when I first got started of getting my first one, it was like literally a tabletop. I'm not gonna say what brand it is, but it's the opposite of having a sister. So that specific unit, it was entry level. The ease of use wasn't the best. It only had, like, if I'm not mistaken, it had like 4 or 5 different colors. It wasn't, so it almost gave me a bad taste of what I was gonna get myself into, because I was used to outsourcing all my embroidery, and I would outsource this to somebody that had, like 4 to 6 machines, and each machine had like 6 heads on it. So I'm like, okay, if this guy's doing it, and I would see the single heads that vendor had, he'd just be jamming away with it. So when I got my first one, I kind of struggled with it. I'm like, this is gonna be a lot more complicated than I thought. I might be over my head on this one. So for this specific one, can you kind of, what is, like, as far as when it comes to ease of use, what would you say you can kind of pinpoint for that?
Ease of use, I think with any machine, is going to come down to what you feel comfortable with the control panel. I think when you look at this control panel here, for example, like you have 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs, and kind of gives you that order of where to go from this process. I've seen other machines where you have a knob on the side and it's not a touch screen like this. So anything that's really easy to access gives you color coordination, and that direction of where to go through really helps, and really makes the customer feel more comfortable when getting comfortable with the machine.
The control panel is definitely, like, I think it's a game changer as far as, like, it's nice and big. If some of you guys are used to working off tablets, touch screen, for the most part, most of them worked off a USB. You have to take the USB, super outdated software. This one, I've personally used it myself. I'm not in the trenches as much when it comes to the fulfillment. Like I said, I help oversee the fulfillment that we offer for our customers, but I've personally, with Brian, we've pretty much pushed the envelope on this specific one. He took me from being a rookie with this machine to, like, how do we created this design that was like, what's the most complicated design we can do to maximize the 15 needles, and we went through the whole process, and it was super easy. We already had the colors on there. You open the file with the touch screen, you literally say, like, color 1, it's for, you have your order sheet and you match it. It's super easy to match it up, and versus having a little bit more of a complicated process, because when you're looking at this piece of equipment, either you're going to be doing it yourself, or you're going to be adding it to an existing business that you already have. And the last thing that you want to be doing is going through this big learning curve of just, how am I going to set up these jobs? How am I going to do it? It was hard for me to figure it out. Now I have to train somebody on how to do it. Oh man, that person left. Now I have to train somebody new. So it's definitely, ease of use is, one of the top ones on there. Number 5, software compatibility.
Yeah.
For this specific one, what type of file formats does it support?
It supports DST formats. That's usually your typical format you're going to be using on an embroidery machine. Some embroidery machines are a little different. They'll take different formats, but this one, DST, and then with the auto digitizing program, it does read PNG, JPEG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're able to upload like a PNG on here?
Yeah, and you'll be able to do an auto digitizing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Learn something new. So for those of you that are new, DST, that's kind of like, you know, it's almost like JPEG is for a regular picture. DST is what you would call for your embroidery file. Digitizing is super important because, you know, tying it into the piece of equipment that you have, if the file that you're putting into the machine is not the best quality, then you're not going to be able to produce the highest quality out there. So if you're new into the business, there's resources that, you know, I can offer you, that we can offer you, as far as like where to go to get digitizing done. And digitizing is pretty much, if I was to explain it in simple terms, is taking an image and then converting it into a file that then the embroidery machine is going to be able to read to process that. The file is definitely super important. You know, if you're starting off, you want to be able to work with somebody that can do it for you. I wouldn't recommend you get into digitizing if you're starting off. It's not the easiest thing to do if you're new to the game. There's a lot of vendors, a lot of companies that'll do it very cost effective. You know, when I first got started, a lot of the people that I knew did digitizing just because the software wasn't advanced. There wasn't that many vendors out there, you know, that did it. Now, you know, you can get something digitized between $15 to $25. That might take you, if you're new, several hours, and you might not even do a good job anyway. So digitizing is super important. So then that way you can take that DST file, upload it on here, and then you'll be good to go. Number 6, stitch quality and speed. And I literally just talked about stitch quality, which ties to your digitized file. Brian, what can you say as far as like the quality? What would set this specific iStitch Pro apart from, you know, something else out there as far as like the quality?
The quality, I believe it's the consistency. It plays a huge role into it. You're able to transition from hats to a flat frame if you're going to do jackets, tote bags, those kind of garments. You're able to get the consistency and not come across any hiccups like bird's nesting when transitioning into other.
What do you mean by bird's nesting?
Bird's nesting is when the thread will get, the top thread right here will get caught with the garment and the bobbin, and it'll create a big.
Oh, I've seen those, yeah.
So it'll create a big just mess inside there. And, you know, it is difficult at times to, you know, remove that, but with this machine, I don't really come across those issues when transitioning from a hat to a flat design. And, you know, in regards to speed, I would say that doing hats, I wouldn't recommend going over 650.
And what he means by 650 is 650 stitches per minute, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. When you're talking about speed, 650 stitches per minute for hats, what would you say is the good speed overall, like that you want to be at?
I would say a good speed overall, universal for both flats and hats, 700. You know, I definitely would think that's a good, if you've got a lot of, you know, merch that you're working on or product that you need to do for a customer, you know, you should be able to run 700 fine. It's when it comes to doing 3D designs, that's when you'd want to bring it down maybe to 650. Depends on how detailed the design as well too, you know.
And what Brian means by 3D is like the foam, like the puffy feel hats, the ones that have the raised surface to them. Those, you know, you slow it down just for that. So definitely, you know, speed is good, quality is good, and that's kind of the biggest thing they all tied in. You know, if you have a bad file, it doesn't matter how good your machine is, it's not gonna produce something that's, you know, that's good quality. Correct. So definitely, you know, when I was starting off, you know, I didn't know anything about bird nesting, or I didn't know anything about, you know, the speed, the threads, any of that stuff. So like I said, I wish I would have known now. You know, I wish I would have had access to a video that would have pointed out all these things to look out for. Number 7, durability and build quality. I know this is your baby. I just wanted to shake it up. Tell us a little bit about the durability.
I think every machine's pretty, standard on, some will have these washers that are metal, like some will be plastic. You just want to look out and see when you're doing anything from changing threads to replacing needles, just the difficulty of it. And
so like, let's say, what's the parts that you would want to pay more attention to, that you would say, if you get a piece of equipment that doesn't have these type of parts, it's just gonna make it hard over the long haul? Like, what are the parts that I would want to make sure that are good quality parts that are gonna wear and tear or cost me time and money in the long haul? What would you say is the best ones?
I definitely would look from your thread path right here. Want to observe, all right, lifting up the washers, checking the coils in the back of the machine.
For the coils in the back, what specific function?
This helps guide the thread from that you place, and the spools that you place on the back of the machine will go through those coils and then through this top right here and down this thread path. So you're definitely going to want to look at those.
And coils, hopefully I don't stretch it out too much, but the coils are kind of like, pretty much what this, like rubbery coils where the thread goes down the middle. And I've seen other machines where it's like it doesn't have those and it just goes on there.
Yeah, and stuff like that, would lead to more causes, like I mentioned earlier, the birds nesting, thread rippage, that kind of thing. Is stuff to look out for sure when coming across a machine and purchasing a machine.
And I do notice that it has this nice stand to it versus just being a tabletop by itself. That's definitely an extra to look out for versus just getting something that you're gonna, then have to figure out where you're gonna put it. It has a sturdy stand that comes with it. Number 8, maintenance and servicing. Maintenance. That's like a must for every piece of equipment that you have, whether it's direct to film, screen printing, embroidery. I remember for us, we had the big automated screen printing machine, so maintenance was definitely, the number one thing for everything. So what's the maintenance looking like on one of these machines that you want to make sure you maintain, maybe daily, weekly, monthly?
I mean, it doesn't get any easier than this. You have your daily oiling that you're going to do and just making sure that there isn't dust piling up. Just maintain the machine, kind of what you said. You want to make sure that you're doing your daily maintenance, whether that's a car, whether that's a printer, whether that's an embroidery machine. That's definitely key.
So definitely it's like a 50-50 partnership. It's like you have to do your part as far as making sure, like Brian was saying, your daily maintenance, oiling up, lubing up certain areas of the machine. But at the same time as, the company that you work with, the company that you purchase the equipment, you as being one of the individuals that does like maintenance and customer service and stuff like that, how important is being able to be available for your customers in the event that something happens with their machine?
It's extremely important. You want to make sure that the customer's feeling heard, validated for any time that an issue comes or occurs, that we're there to respond quickly, promptly, and just give them that reassurance that we're there to, be there for them.
Number 9, accessories and extras. For this specific unit, Brian, like what are we looking at as far as like what does it come with?
So you're gonna come with a set of 2 hoops, 2 hat hoops, one for when you are having your embroidery job being done, and then the next one to have set ready for you. So when you're done with that piece, you can add on the next one and keep it going. So you'll keep production going. You don't have to stop. Only when the machine is finished with the design, and then you pop on the next and just keep that.
Okay, so definitely a lot of good accessories. We also have, what do you call that one over there? The one where you can just plop it.
So we do have it does come with the Hoop Master.
The Hoop Master, I've personally used it. Like when I was starting off, I didn't have anything like that. You literally had to kind of slide it in and hopefully you got it nice and straight. Now with the Hoop Master, you can literally just lay it on there. It just makes it a lot easier when it comes to, one, doing it right, and two, training somebody on how to do it.
Yeah, and just the alignment helps, and the magnetic part of the hooping is just way faster, time consumable from, like you mentioned, doing it hands-on, placing the measurements when that's already measured out for you, and you'll get the consistency. And if you're trying to embroider one side to the other, you would just lift it, move it to the same exact number that's on that machine or on that other side, and it'll line perfectly up. At the end of the day, time is money. You don't want to waste time having to hoop, make measurements, when that hoop itself does that for you.
Number 10, budget and warranty. Definitely super important. Like when you're buying a new piece of equipment, like what warranty does it come with? What's your budget? Specifically for embroidery machine, you can have units, a couple thousands, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. It just depends on how many heads you're getting. Definitely, what's your budget? You don't want to get $2,000 unit and spend, $1,500 on a warranty, right? It kind of has to balance out. So definitely, what's your budget? Pretty much everything that we've covered so far as what you're going to be looking out for. And as far as warranty, what would you add to it, or what would you say in regards to it?
And a warranty, you just you want to make sure that you do the regular steps, you do the research. You want to make sure that you know what you're stepping into and what you're purchasing before you make that agreement.
Definitely. So definitely you want to look out if you're covered bumper to bumper. Do you have a 1 year or 2 year? What does it cover? Definitely when you're buying any equipment, you always want to make sure it's like because a lot of the times you also get it where it's like, oh, it's included in the price, but you also want to make sure what type of warranty are you getting? Do they offer extended warranty? That kind of stuff. So you definitely want to make sure you have as many options as possible, and you educate yourself, as far as like, all the try to learn understand the fine print pretty much. Okay, there you have it, guys. That pretty much goes over the top 10 things that I would suggest as far as like what to look out for when you're buying a new piece of equipment, whether it's an embroidery machine, direct to film, direct to garment. Definitely you want to put your sales guys through the ringer, get all the fine details, what your warranty, what does it cover, and so forth. And Brian, what would you like to add to it?
I think you pretty much nailed it. You just want to do the research. You want to make sure that whoever you're going through, a sales rep, you get all the information needed, and you want to make sure that you're purchasing the right equipment for what you plan to do, whether that's getting bigger space, needing multiple machines, or just a single head for something that's more of a personal use. You definitely want to make the right call when doing that.
Yeah, and just to add what Brian just said, one thing that wasn't even on my list, this is a bonus, guys, space. He just brought that up. This doesn't really take up too much space. As you can see, where you can literally have it within a 2 by 3 foot area, and then your space around it. So definitely, it doesn't take up too much space. How heavy is this? It seems like 2 people can transport it, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So you can definitely transport it. For those of you husband and wife couple, super easy to transport, and definitely. Thanks, guys. Like I said, Edgar with OmniPrint. Tips and tricks from Creators Boardroom. Have a good one.